I would not eat lab-grown meat because meat is not meant to be grown in a lab. And this is kind of the direction that Bill Gates is trying to take everybody, just thinking that just rely on science for everything. I mean, common sense, science is not the cure to really anything in terms of the stuff that they're creating in labs that are supposed to take the place of the things that are provided on this planet.
Hey, what is up, guys? So today we're going to be responding to somebody who many of you who watch me are probably very familiar with, and that is the conservative commentator Candace Owens in her recent comments on lab-grown meat, and I guess sort of veganism as a whole. Her takes on veganism tend to be quite terrible, especially when you take into account her vehement opposition to visiting zoos, while at the same time thinking it is morally justified to pay for animals to be exploited and murdered for food because it is natural, even though she consumes these animals, which are a product of artificial insemination and artificial selection. How natural and consistent of her. More on that in a past video I've done on her. I highly suggest you watch it after this one. It'll be linked below. Anyway though, her takes on vegans and vegan endeavors have gotten even worse and even more hypocritical in a new video she's come out with commenting on lab-grown meat and why she would never consume it. Let's have a listen and see if she presents a solid case against the consumption of lab-grown meat.
How do you feel about lab-grown meat? Is it something that you would eat? No, absolutely not. I would not eat lab-grown meat because meat is not meant to be grown in a lab. And this is kind of the direction that Bill Gates is trying to take everybody, just thinking that just rely on science for everything. I mean, common sense, science is not the cure to really anything in terms of the stuff that they're creating in labs that are supposed to take the place of the things that are provided on this planet. You know, God gave us a planet. Well, I don't want my lettuce to be grown in the lab. I don't want my meat to be grown in the lab.
All right, guys, so let's break this down. When Candace is asked if she would consume lab-grown meat, her answer is no. Now, the real question here is, would you eat lab-grown meat over traditionally farmed meat? So let's think about what it really means to say no to this question. Rather than consume meat in a lab, in a sterile environment, which is molecule for molecule the same thing as traditionally farmed meat, Candace would rather eat meat derived from animal farming, which involves artificial insemination in order to bring the animals into existence in the first place, plus all of the artificial selection over the years that has been used to selectively breed livestock with the most profitable character traits. Some of these character traits being increased milk yield in dairy cows and quickened growth in broiler chickens. Now, I must emphasize the current and past use of artificial insemination and artificial selection in the creation process for the animals which Candace would rather eat over lab-grown meat. I emphasize this because it is very clear that Candace is objecting to lab-grown meat on the basis that either, number one, consuming it is not natural, and number two, consuming lab-grown meat is not the way that God intended for us to consume meat, or both. I find this all truly fascinating because, in the natural sense, was meat meant to be made through artificial insemination or natural reproduction? Did God mean for meat to be made through artificial insemination? Did God mean for meat to be the product of artificial selection by humans over the years? Did God or nature intend for humans to artificially breed animals into existence for food? Is there somewhere in the Bible where God says, "And then man will jerk off a bull, extract their semen into a syringe, and then forcibly impregnate animals repeatedly in order to produce meat"? Or, "And then man will play God, and through artificial selection, create the perfect chicken for your Chick-fil-A chicken"? Probably not. So let's really think about this, guys. Candace Owens is objecting to lab-grown meat on a basis that applies to the meat she currently consumes, meaning there is no real substantive difference between the meat she consumes currently and lab-grown meat that would warrant her consuming one over the other. Both are grown in ways that God clearly never intended, plus ways that are just not natural. So if Candace is given the decision between lab-grown meat and the meat she currently consumes, what are the differences I think she should consider, given they're both not natural and both not intended by God? Well, perhaps the main difference between the two, which is that lab-grown meat does not require the forced breeding, exploitation, and murder of sentient beings. If you care about reducing animal rights violations and suffering, perhaps this would appeal to you, Candace. Oh, and just a side note, if you're a vegan who still thinks that we need to exploit animals for lab-grown meat because of the requirement of bovine fetal serum, understand that lab-grown meat is now capable of being grown without the need for bovine fetal serum, and the solution has also been made open source. Current and past protocols induce myogenic differentiation in vitro, which, by the way, basically just means the creation of skeletal muscular tissue in vitro, and this is usually done through serum starvation, but it has now been found that a serum-free differentiation media supported the fabrication of three-dimensional bioartificial muscle constructs, demonstrating its suitability for cultured beef production. If that was confusing, just understand there is a new method for the bioartificial construction of cultured meat. So again, I think it is very clear what Candace should be doing here, especially when you take into account her position on zoos. Let's keep watching her clip and see if there's anything else to object to.
God gave us a planet. Well, I don't want my lettuce to be grown in the lab. I don't want my meat to be grown in the lab. I want to go outside and grow my vegetables. I want someone to go out and hunt my meat.
So she says she wants to grow her vegetables outside and have someone hunt her meat for her. I've already covered in the past her position on hunting. So again, just check out my videos in the past made on Candace. Let's keep going because there's other stuff I want to cover in this video that's relatively new that she's never really said before.
Again, I'm a backwards, more traditional type person, but I think it's absolutely bonkers. The whole concept of even what's that weird meat brand, Impossible Burger? Yeah, because it's actually impossible. It was like, I can't believe it's not butter. Bigger question, what is it? We got to stop doing all of these substitute things, then finding out down the line that they're really harmful for our body.
So Candace, who is a conservative, let us know that she is a more traditional and backwards kind of person. This isn't much of a shocker, seeing as when she's given an option between old methods of obtaining meat, which require exploitation and murder, and one that doesn't, she goes with the former, a much more traditional method. Guys, let's go ahead and continue to breed animals into existence to exploit and murder them in the name of tradition. Makes sense. Got a solution that provides me with molecule for molecule the same exact thing I had before, but without the need for exploitation and murder? Nah, sorry bro, it's just not natural enough. Let me go ahead and instead just buy my meat that's been the product of very natural artificial selection and artificial insemination. Makes so much sense, very natural, yes. So later in the previous clip, she starts to shit on Impossible Foods, implying that we don't know what it is when you can literally just look up the ingredients to find out exactly what it is.
Even what's that weird meat brand, Impossible Burger? Yeah. Because it's actually impossible. It was like, I can't believe it's not butter. Bigger question, what is it?
She also claimed we need to stop doing these substitute things that we later find out are actually harmful for our body. Now let's rewatch that part of the clip and see if she provided any evidence to support the claim that the Impossible Burger is just unhealthy for our body.
We got to stop doing all of these substitute things, then finding out down the line that they're really harmful for our body.
Damn guys, did you see that evidence? Insanity. Jokes aside, even though she didn't provide evidence for any of her claims, due to the coconut oil in Impossible Burgers, I definitely wouldn't consider it a healthy food, seeing as coconut oil can raise your LDL cholesterol. But is the Impossible Burger healthier than red meat? Knowing this is difficult, I highly intuit that it is, but I highly recommend either way that you go ahead and watch Nutrition Science Made Simple's video covering this topic. Anyway though, if she is so worried about the health effects, the negative health effects of the Impossible Burger, why is she such a big proponent of red meat? Perhaps she hasn't seen all of the data indicating how red meat is clearly not healthy, or she has and just attributes this research to Bill Gates or some other weird shit, who really knows? Either way, Candace, if you're listening, if you are, concerned about the negative health effects of the Impossible Burger, I highly recommend you look into the science covering the negative health effects of red meat. It has been largely empirically proven, especially compared to a case made for the Impossible Burger being unhealthy. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. Again, go ahead and watch those other two videos I have on Candace that will cover her position on hunting and zoos. And if you support my work and want to support me on Patreon and get early access to content, you can click the link below. And if you don't know, I do have a book going over all, if not most, of the anti-vegan arguments you're going to hear online and all the debunks for them. So if you want to get that as well, that'll also be linked below. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.
Dude.
Fuck off, I don't want anything to do with you. Don't ever speak to me again. You're a fucking piece of shit.
Even vegans don't get your weird, stupid wannabe sense of irony here. Who is your audience? Nobody gets these dumb jokes. Dude.